We are live here for a conversation. Thank you, Neighborhood Church, for tuning in each and every week to these conversations. And that's really what this is. This Jesus plus culture podcast is really looking at taking a biblical lens, a Jesus lens, and looking at the issues that we all face and asking the question, what's God say about that? It's very simple. And so we're very thankful that you've decided to take some time on your way to work or your way home from work as you're sitting at home to just enter the conversation that we are having today. And today is no exception to that. Really excited about our conversation, Matt. And wondering if we can just kind of, sorry, my throat here for all those listening, that was gross. Wondering if you can just kind of intro us into today's theme. Intro us into today's topic, because I think that a lot of folks in our church are going to be thinking about this very thing this holiday season.
Yeah. So how do we, basically what we're going to talk about is what does it look like to walk through the holidays in a faithful manner, looking at Jesus as the center, as for many of us, the holiday season is awesome and happy and wonderful and exciting and so much to do. And then for others of us, holiday seasons actually aren't those things. They actually bring about feelings of sadness or loss or of change. And so what does it look like to find joy in the holiday season, to focus on what the holiday season is truly about, regardless of where you are, whether you love them or they're a struggle for you. And so just kind of excited. It's a personal thing for me. I tend to be one of the people that I don't actually love the holiday season. And I'll just share briefly, my dad went into the hospital Christmas Eve, and that was the last Christmas that I had with him. And so we spent Christmas Day at home without him, and then in the hospital with him, and then he never came home again. And so I vividly remember that, and I have great memories of Christmas specifically as a child, and they were wonderful. My parents went above and beyond, and so they were it was always awesome and it was fun. And then as I got older, I had and held some resentments towards my mom about some stuff, and by God's grace that is no longer an issue. But because of that, I spent most of my holiday time around family, which I didn't want to do, and so I was typically drunk or frustrated or annoyed or a combination of all of them, and so those memories aren't as good. And then my dad going into the hospital was like the last one with him that I have, and so there's always seems to be a pressure that I've created for myself of trying to get back what can't be that can't come back, right? So trying to make the holidays feel like they used to when I was a kid, for me and for my sister and for my mom, and recognizing that that's impossible, but feeling the weight of that and thinking that I need to somehow make it like it used to be, because it was such good memories, and it can never be that anymore, right? It's right. Different now, but that doesn't mean that the actual point of the holiday season is different. It's just how I address it. And now being married and things like that, remembering that, it's not just about me in this, and that I have a wife whom I love, who I want to be with and enjoy this time with, and my mom whom I love, and my sister whom I love, and recognizing that though it will never be the same, it doesn't mean that it can't be great. But if I'm honest, right, like I don't prefer the holiday season for the reasons that I said. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say you're not alone in that. I actually wonder, and I don't know this to be true, but I wonder if not the majority of people have, struggled during this season. And maybe that's because it's there's not enough money in the bank account to buy all the gifts and do all the things they want to do. Maybe there's the pressure of work and the kind of year-end stuff. But I suspect that some anxiety, at least during this season, just comes from the forced time with family. When it's like the expectations are that you visit your families and you do dinners and hangout time, and you probably most folks are not spending that type of time with their families regularly. And this is kind of the moment when all of the families descend. And it's like, do I know you? Do I even like you? So I wonder if this is a very common experience. I will say, as a pastor, for me, that it's almost sacrilegious to say this, but after 20 years of preaching baby Jesus born in a manger and every part of that story, there's the insider playbook for Christmas is among pastors is, how am I going to preach this again? How's this going to be different from last year? How can we still be creative with this? And so there's a little bit of like, oh my goodness, we're back to it, and that's horrible to say, isn't it? But that's kind of the insider trading that happens, I think, among pastors during the season. And then around that is just the year-end stuff. You know, budgets are due, and new budgets need to be created, and kind of new visioning needs to start to roll out, and all that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot in this season where it's almost like it's easy for a pastor, I think, to kind of miss Advent, you know, and miss the expectation of enjoying the fact that we have a Lord and Savior who came to us. And that's sometimes easily missed, I think, if you're kind of a professional priest, so to speak, professional Christian. So,
yeah. And I think what you said, right, like, it is very easy in the culture we live in to get wrapped up in what Christmas is as opposed to what it's supposed to be, right?
Wow.
And so, you know, for some of us, like, yeah, the idea of spending time with family, it's like, man, do I even know you, like you said? But for some of us, it's like, do I even have family to spend with? And then failing to recognize, right, like, what Christmas is meant to be as believers, right? We're talking to believers. What it's meant to be is, as you said, it's Advent. It's a waiting for the expected Savior. And we know that he's already come, but it's the reminder that, man, whether we have family that we get to spend it with, whether we have family that we don't want to spend it with, whether you've lost a family member, like in my case, whether you have good memories or bad memories, regardless of what you have, what we all have in common if we are a believer is that Christmas is a reminder that we had God in flesh for us on our behalf, that would make the sacrifice that we couldn't, would live the life that we couldn't, that we might be restored to right relationship. And that is a beautiful thing that should, I say should because it often doesn't, at least in my life, make it everything, right? Yeah. But I find myself getting caught up in the other things, the lesser things. Not that they're not important, but in comparison to what Christmas is, I get lost in it. And then, you know, even including Thanksgiving, right? Like, it's funny to me that, like, we have a day to remind us to be thankful. Yeah. It's like, no, like, that's, I mean, as a believer, right, I'm called to give thanks always. So it's like, we're funny, I think, as human beings. It's like, well, this is the time, and we do this thing, and then it's like we forget about it. Sure. And we go about the rest of our year, and we come back to it. It's like, oh yeah, and then, you know, and it's like, no, like, this is remembering that I have a Savior. I should do every day. Yeah. Right. Being thankful is something I should do every day. And so, you know, the holidays are a good opportunity to remind me of that, but also it comes with all this other stuff. And I just have to, for me personally, I have to remember, man, this is a beautiful and joyful time solely for the fact that that's a reminder of Jesus. And Amen. That is everything, right? Like everything else, though real, isn't Jesus. And right. So in that, whether I have good memories or bad memories, I can be joyful. And so leaning in, I need God for that. And so leaning into him in this time and being honest and talking about it helps.
I think that's really key. And I wish more people would be honest with themselves and others during the holiday season. Instead of contriving kind of fake hope or false joy, to go, actually, this season is really tough for me, and here's why. And because actually that's a place of honesty. I mean, I think last week we talked about the role of lament in worship, and if people don't know what that is, they should go back and listen to last week's conversation, because this is a playbook. This is a roadmap that the Bible gives us for discussing the hard stuff and actually changing us, letting there be a pivot from what's horrible and hard into what potentially could be joy and thanksgiving in the midst of that struggle. And I wish people were more honest. I mean, the book of Lamentations is a good example, where the whole book is a lament. I mean, there's a book in the Bible called Lament, so to speak, Lamentations. And Lamentations 3:17 and 18. My soul is bereft of peace. I've forgotten what happiness is, so I say my endurance has perished, so has my hope from the Lord. That's in the Bible. That's a verse from the Bible. And maybe, I'm wondering, for those who struggle with the holidays, it's like, man, God, like, I don't have peace here. When I enter this family dinner, there's no peace for me in this. This thing doesn't make me happy, God. Like, I don't have, the text says, my endurance has perished. It's like, God, I don't have energy for this. I don't know if I can get through the next few hours of this gathering. This is, these people are so annoying, whatever it is. And I've lost my hope. And if that is in some small way how people feel, well, the Bible speaks to that. It gives us a way to actually pray that out. And people should be praying that out and honest about that with themselves and others.
Yeah, and like in all of that going, Jesus, remind me of you, right?
Yes.
Like, this might be frustrating. This might be hard. This might be not what I prefer. So Jesus, remind me of you. And I'm an advocate for not busying yourself.
Yeah, totally.
During the holidays. And I get that doesn't work for everyone with kids. I've told Megan countless times, and we don't have kids at this moment, but that when we have kids, I'm not going to be one of those parents that goes to 18 different places so that everyone and their mom can see the kids. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I say that now, and that could change, but it's like, no, we'll go to one place and you can come there, because Megan then loves to remind me that, yeah, you say that, but then you also say you don't want to host. And so I don't know how you get both. And I'm like, I'll figure it out so that I don't have to host and also not go to 30 different places. But, there's a busyness that we surround ourselves with that isn't the point, right? Like, the holidays should be a time of reflection and rest, as opposed to crazy and busy and stressful and frustrating. And, one of the things that I did a long time ago, for me, right or wrong, is one of the things I don't like about Christmas is I hate gift giving.
Yeah.
I'm not a gift giver. Because there's like, I don't know if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, but like Sheldon Cooper, I relate very well to that. He's like, there's like a social contract now, and it's like, I have to give you something of equal value, because if I give you something better, then I might make you feel like you didn't do enough. If I give you something less, then you're going to think that I'm this, and like, I feel that. Like, I can directly relate to that. I'm not calling it right, but I can directly relate to that feeling. And then on the other end going, man, this might sound bad, but no one can give me as good of a gift as I could give myself. Like, I know exactly what I want. So I would much rather just go do that and then just spend time with you. Or like, so Megan and I, since we've been together, we don't do gifts, and we do trips together and we do experiences like that, but we don't do gifts. And I think that, like, for me, that has been relief, because I don't, right? And so I say all of that to go, man, in the holiday season, know yourself. Know where your pressure points are, know where your stressors are, know those things, and make adjustments if need be, starting with, just as you said, being honest and calling out to God, like, this is hard, right? Like, you may feel like you have to go to 10 places. You don't. You may feel that. And so you can choose to feel that and go to 10 places, but in that, just say, all right, like, I know that I'm choosing to do something that stresses me out, so God, I need you in every moment of this. Or to go, all right, you know what, this year I'm only going to go to 3, whatever it may be. But knowing what your stressors are, and then going like, all right, Lord, what does it look like for me to focus on you in this?
I really like that. So if I had to summarize what I heard you say there, it might be to say, the first thing we need to do is we need to keep it honest. And just go like, yeah, this is actually hard. I'm not going to pretend, I'm going to share that with others. I'm just going to be honest as the scriptures are. But then secondly, to keep it simple, to not busy your Christmas season with lots of gifts, lots of appointments, lots of places to go. And I hear you say maybe that's not realistic for folks, but I think it's an attempt that we all need to make at some level. How can we take the temperature down on high production? How can we take the temperature down on lots of activities and places to be? And that there seems to be some wisdom in that, because it removes some stress for people during this season. I like that. Maybe,
Well,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, one of the things that I had to do, right? Like I said, after my dad died, and all of that, there was a pressure that I felt myself, because I saw it in, specifically my mom, and understandably so, of like, how do we make this good, right? Like, I need to make Christmas enjoyable so that my mom is experiencing joy instead of grief, and all of those things. And that was something that I did. She didn't do that to me. I did that to myself, right? And what I had to come to remember is I don't do that. I can't make something different for somebody else. All I can do is lean into where I'm at and go, yeah, this is different, but Jesus is real. And I get to live in that and to rest in that. And in doing that changes my demeanor, which then actually has the effect that I wanted to try to create on my own that I couldn't do. That now that I'm focusing where I should focus, which is Christ, as opposed to others. Not that I don't focus on others, but I focus on Christ, and in that others come along.
Yeah.
The things that I wanted to happen, and it's freeing. Really, right? It's like, okay,
I like that. So it's keep it honest. It's keep it simple, and it might be we could say keep it focused.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about Psalm 28:7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. In Him my heart trusts, and I am helped. My heart exalts, and with my song I give thanks to Him. And that's in the midst of lament, right? It's this moment where he's going, but you, Jesus, are my strength. You, Jesus, are my shield. I trust you. You help me. My heart is for you, and I'm singing to you. It's a way of saying I'm focused on you and giving you thanks, right? So it's almost like keep it focused. Maybe during the holiday season, all of us need to kind of kindle habits and practices which keep us focused. This might not be a good time to have Amazon on your browser. This may not be a good time to watch commercials, or maybe just mute commercials. This may not be a good time. So it's like we kind of create habits that help us focus and stay focused on God. I like that.
Yeah, for someone like me, right? Like, it's not a good time for me to go buy a 12-pack or an 18-pack to keep in my fridge, right? Because not that I can't go have a beer, because I can, and I'm good, but if I have 18 of them at my disposal without thinking, I can drink a lot of them at one time. Just because, habitually I'm used to that, especially in the holiday season. And so I have to go, no, if I want a beer, I'll just go get one, and then I don't have that temptation. And I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, but like I remember as a kid, right? Think specifically on Fox. Like I'd be watching TV on Fox, and then you'd get these Christmas commercials, and there was always the one, Jesus is the reason for the season. Yeah, right? Totally. I don't know if you remember. And as simple as that is, man, that's so true. Yeah. Right? Like that's actually what it is. And I could try in my own strength or whatever to make this person happy, and this person happy, and this person happy, and this person happy, and this person happy, thinking that I have the ability to make everybody happy, because others are important. Or I can go, no, Jesus, I am gonna focus on you, and in that, the outflows of others happen on their own accord, without me doing anything, but because of who Jesus is, right? And so that has been a help.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so this kind of focusing on God in this season reminds us of the more important things. And I mean, that's kind of what I hear you saying in that. It's like by focusing rightly in this season, we almost kind of rewire ourselves, and that helps us. Like when we focus on God, we're reminded that He redeems us. And that's a reason for this season. I mean, I think of Isaiah 44:22. I've blotted out your transgressions like a cloud, and your sins like a mist. Return to me, for I have redeemed you. That's a great promise from Isaiah. Or that he has redeemed us. Or what about that he has not forgotten us? I think about Isaiah 49:15 through 16. I will not forget you. Behold, I have engraved you on the palm of my hands. That is phenomenal. That's a phenomenal imagery, given the fact that, the context there is slaves would engrave or have engraved the name of their masters on their palms. So when they're working in the fields as slaves, they would be reminded who owns them. And God is saying he engraves our names on his palms. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So it's almost, it's like by keeping focused in this season, we're reminded of these incredible truths. He redeems us. He doesn't forget us. Maybe you could say he carries us, I like Isaiah 4. I've been in Isaiah recently. So Isaiah 46, you've been born by me from before your birth, carried from the womb. Even to your old age, I am he, and to gray hairs I will carry you. It's like, wow, that's a phenomenal promise from God that he will carry us for the entirety of our lives. Like, these are the things that we focus when we focus on Jesus. These are the things that we get in return. We receive these promises, and we can bury them in our hearts and meditate on them and let those promises shape us.
Yeah, I think, right, when we're talking about the Christmas story and all of that, right, I think we get great examples of what it's meant to be, especially in Scripture. When you think of, the shepherds were told, and they went immediately to kneel before Jesus, to worship, right? Like, you think of the wise men, they saw a star, knowing what that star meant for whatever reason that they knew, and they went to worship, right? Like, they went to worship Jesus, and that was what it was always meant to be, and that's what it's meant to be for us. And so I wonder for myself, what does it look like for me this Christmas to go, Jesus, I'm going to worship you in this. Yeah. I'm going to kneel before you in this. I'm going to remember that it's you in this. And I have to look at what that means, right? There are simple things that it means going, as I need to every day of every year, going, Jesus, you're Lord of my life. And so I need you today, but specifically in this season going, when it's so easy to get wrapped up in that which is not the focus, to be incredibly intentional in reminding myself on a daily basis that this time is for Jesus, and it's for Jesus because of what and who he is. And as the things that you've said, like how awesome it is that God engraves our names on his hands, right? How awesome is it that God carries us, right? Like, how amazing is that? And that has the power to reshape every view that I have, and every struggle that I have, and every heartbreak that I have as it relates to the holiday season, because that is so much better than everything else.
Wow. That's so true, man. So if you're listening today, we're having this conversation about the holidays and just recognizing that for some, this is a complicated season for multiple reasons. One could be financially, two could be relationally, three could be just the loneliness factor. And that I would think is fairly common for most people at some level. This season often exacerbates those types of issues. What can people do to kind of recalibrate how they experience this season? And we've said a few things. We said one of the things that people can do is they can kind of keep it simple. Instead of doing 10 things, do 2 things. Instead of doing 20 things, do 4 things. And really decide how you're going to spend time this Christmas season. Another thing people can do is they can keep it focused. They can find ways to focus on Jesus. And with actual habits that maybe mitigate against the things that provide a lot of stress and trauma. Maybe that's muting commercials, or maybe that's not going on Amazon or not buying an 18-pack of beer or whatever it is. But they can just do things that really help them focus on the reason for the season. They can keep it honest. They can just let people know that this is a tough season. And church would be a great spot to do this. We have prayer every single Sunday. This is an opportunity to just be prayed for in an area of your great need. And then, after this Christmas season, we're going right into Revive, where people will have 8 weeks of going, 9 weeks, whatever it is, of going through a process with a group to find healing in the place of great need. If you're feeling overwhelmed or lonely, this would be a perfect place to sign up for Revive in this next season, probably in February, and sign up and be a part of that experience. Right? So keep it honest. And then maybe if you kind of had to say the last thing is that in keeping it honest, maybe also keep the promises of God close to heart. That He redeems you. He doesn't forget you. He carries you. And all of that is true right now in this holiday season. All of that truth is receivable in this season. And we just need to participate in that and receive it and do things that help bury those things in our heart, to meditate on them and let them become a part of our conscience. Would you include anything there, or is that a good summary of how we've discussed?
Yeah, I would agree. I think in its simplest form, one thing that I would say, if you're a person that struggles with the holiday season, with Christmas and stuff, do one thing different this year. Start with one thing different. You don't need to change everything, but try to do one thing different that is focused away from you, but focused on Christ, that can bring somebody else into it, and go from there. This year, Megan and I, like I said, we don't do gifts. This was her brilliant idea, not mine. And so I'm still wrestling with it because it means things that I struggle with. But instead of gifts, which I said we don't do, we are doing affirmations.
Beautiful.
Of each other for, December 1st to December 25th, and putting those in stockings, right? And so reminding each other why we love each other. And it would be true for me to say that I would guess that for me and for her, 99.999% of all of that is gonna focus on relationship with Jesus, right? So many things that I love about Megan, but that's first and foremost. And so, do one thing different that is focusing not on the hard things of this season, if that's you, but on Jesus. If you love Christmas and you get caught up in all of the stuff, still do something different. Look at, what's something focused on Jesus you can do. And then, for those that it's like, man, I love Christmas for all of the reasons why we've talked about already, that it's a reminder of who Jesus is. Invite others into that so that they can see what it looks like to experience this season in a way that I think God intended it.
Matt, that is beautiful, and I just want to affirm that. I really hope people hear that. I think that's a key message here that I hope people take home and consider for themselves as we kind of carry one another through this Advent season, through Christmas and into the new year. Very thankful for that. Hey, if folks have ideas for things that you want to discuss, that you want us to discuss, please let us know. Text us, email us, or comment on the video description below here on YouTube. And this would be a great way for you to enter into this conversation. And very excited about next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about mental health. I know that this is a huge subject right now in our church, with many people who are suffering at all various levels of mental health realities. And Matt's had a lot of experience in this area, me as well, and I'm just very excited about this conversation, looking at what does God say about all this kind of stuff, and how do we get through it. And I think people will be really helped as they enter into this conversation with us. So very excited about next week. Matt, appreciate all you do. And thank you to the rest of our church for tuning in. And let us know what you think. If you have questions or want to follow up with us and meet with us for a cup of coffee, Matt would love to do that with you, as would I. Get a hold of any one of us, and we'd love to continue the conversation.
Yes, sir.
Blessing.